My friends, I told you I'd be back tonight, and here I am. Um, I just wanted, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the final episode of Game of Thrones. Um, if you haven't watched it, this would be the time to turn this the fuck off and go watch it, and then come back. Come back and discuss. Hold on here, jeez. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. There it goes. So, in order to properly discuss, we have to have a moment of reflection. I did an episode of Badass Movie Time, and I kind of went through the seasons. And me and a couple of my buddies, we were even talking because every week we watch the show. I started watching it in 2015, I think. So I was a little late to the game. Season 4 had just started when I started watching it. So they were on season 4. So they were halfway. They were a little over half. No, they were a little under halfway done with the whole series. So, I had seen the first episode. I watched the first episode at my friend Jesse's house, like when it first started, probably in 2011 or so, 2010 maybe. And I mentioned this before. I read the book. I read the book in probably 2009. I think I picked up the book, or 2000. Yeah, it must have been 2009. I originally heard about a Song of Fire and Ice, or Tale of Fire and Ice, whatever, Story of Fire and Ice. I heard about that through the Penny Arcade forum. Somebody recommended it on there, and I was like, and they even mentioned like it's definitely like our generation's like epic like fantasy story. I'm not into the fucking Hobbit stuff, man. That was like the 70s kind of take on fantasy. And I get that it's a popular story, but I really didn't like Lord of the Rings. I read it. It's not a bad book. I'm not critiquing Lord of the Rings, for crying out loud. But I remember when the movies came out, when Fellowship and all that stuff came out, every time I got stuck watching one of those movies, especially with my friend David and Rick, they were really into that shit. So, like, we were at Rick's birthday party and we had to watch Fellowship of the Ring. And it's his birthday, so I have to sit there and watch this fucking movie. And I just feel like all 3 times I've tried watching those movies, the best one to me was the second one. And I watched that on my own terms. I actually didn't get stuck watching that. I tried watching, I rented it, or somebody let my parents borrow it or something. And it took me about 4 different sittings to get through it. And it's not that I can't watch a long movie. I just watched the Star Wars prequels in one sitting, which is like a 7-hour ordeal. And I like The Stand, and I like long movies. You know, I watch Scarface regularly, or the Godfather trilogy. I can sit and watch all the way through. It's just not my thing, so it's hard for me to get through. And so Fellowship of the Ring, and then I remember Return of the King came out when I was like a junior or senior, and I think it was my friend David's birthday at this point. And I just remember, man, I just wanted to like leave and go home. I lived down the street. I just wanted to walk home, and I felt so rude. So I sat through this fucking movie, and that movie has like 20 different endings. So, and the only reason there's not a lot to compare with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, other than that they're fantasy. They're fantasy stories, high fantasy. I'm not a big fantasy guy. My favorite fantasy things would be, I like RPGs. I like video games. And the first like real like fantasy game that I really enjoyed was Oblivion. Elder Scrolls Oblivion was very medieval, like dragons and shit. Well, there's no dragons in Oblivion, but Skyrim came out, and then I was like, okay, well, these dragons are cool. But so Game of Thrones is like my first time I've been into fantasy, and I feel like that's like what the strain is to our generation's, you know, variations of Dracula, or you know, like Salem's Lot would have been like the, you know, 70s take on Dracula. Like, we have different cool things that happen to each generation. when The Walking Dead came out, it came out the same time as Game of Thrones, I believe. They were really close to one another. I think Walking Dead came out in October of 2010, maybe, and then Game of Thrones was April 2011. They were pretty close to one another, and I ended up choosing Walking Dead over Game of Thrones. So I went with Walking Dead, and that's still fucking being ran into the ground. So I feel like Game of Thrones. I'm gonna say it now, because I've already jawed on for 5 minutes, and this could go for a minute. Perfect ending. I loved it. I have zero complaints about this last season. I have zero complaints about the whole series. It needed to end. I feel like they ended it perfectly. I don't feel like it was rushed, and I have zero complaints. I honestly, I enjoyed it, and I don't see any reason for me to really. I don't want to. If you didn't enjoy it, that sucks. I feel bad, but I'm not going to sit here and tear it apart. What little complaints I have, everybody's already bitched about. So there's not a lot to complain about. I feel like my predictions were off, which is, I did a prediction video because I knew it wasn't going to be right. And that's my fucking favorite thing about this show. I've watched so many movies. I am a movie guy, and I really like TV shows. I've always watched TV my whole life. I'm good at predicting shit. If you're watching a movie with me and you're not like a movie buff, I can fucking tell you what's gonna happen on most things I watch. So when I predict something wrong, people think that it's like enjoyable to be able to know like. It's not good. It means you're watching something that you've already seen, or if you're able to predict something too easily, it means it's predictable. That's kind of a flaw in my eyes. So when I predict something wrong, I mean, it feels good to be like, yeah, I know what the fuck's going on, but it's so much more enjoyable when I predict something incorrectly because I am knowledgeable of film. It's just my thing. It's not I'm not like, a psychic or anything like that. I'm not trying to like act like I'm a psychic, but if you've watched movies with me, my friends can attest this. I'm good at fucking being like, this is what's going to happen in this movie. Or at least I was kind of accurate on certain things. Like I knew there was something with Bran, which everybody should know that, but I knew it was going to be big. I knew Jon Snow and Daenerys were going to throw down. They had that set up last season. When they laid together and you found out he was Targaryen, I was like, those motherfuckers are going to fight. The stuff with the dragon after Jon Snow fucking offs his woman was so good. Him just torching that fucking throne like, this is done. Fuck this throne. This is over with. I enjoyed where they left all the surviving characters. They were all sitting at the council table with Tyrion. I didn't want Tyrion to die, and I didn't want Jon Snow, Arya, or Sansa to die. And I'm happy I was wrong about the Night King. I mean, he could come back still. They're gonna fucking do sequels and prequels and shit. They're gonna milk it when they get new people to. I think they're already filming a prequel called The Long Night or something like that. But I don't know. I really enjoyed the series. I don't have much to complain about. I guess I'm just doing this video so maybe you guys, if you guys would like to, you may discuss in the comments. We can kind of nerd out one last time. I'm waiting for my buddy Jesse to call me back. My sister, Jesse, Brian, we all like kind of call each other throughout the series. We would call each other and talk about like, fuck, did you just watch the Battle of the Bastards? Like that shit was fucking crazy. Yeah, man, I'm trying to think of a good reason that somebody wouldn't like it. I feel like they wrapped everything up. The stuff with Jon Snow and Daenerys was very romantic. It had closure. She was too far gone. Daenerys is my favorite character in the show, which a lot of people hate Daenerys. I love her. I think she got a taste of that power, man. She had a fucking Air Force underneath her fucking crotch. She was riding a fucking badass monster that could blow shit up. She was a badass. She could kill anyone she wanted. And so it went to her head. And I think I like that after Jon Snow's actions when Tyrion goes to tell him like, what's up, like, hey, you're gonna go be in the Night's Watch again. I like his reaction, like, did I do the right thing? Because a good person would, how do you kill the, he loved her, so that's like the perfect, I don't know, it was just a good end. She wouldn't have been able to make the world that she wanted. It would have been under her control. She would have been, the final say, and she was, as of season 6, man, or no, well, season 7, no, the whole series, man. I mean, it was the last season. It was season 7, 2 years ago. Jeez. She burned Sam's dad and brother, and that was kind of like, you could see Tyrion like try and talk her out of it, and that's where Tyrion started bumbling. He wasn't bumbling. He was trying to direct her to be good, to be a good ruler, and Varys was right. He fucking called that shit. So, I liked Bran's smirk at the end. He kind of like got what he wanted to get. Like he fucking won the Game of Thrones, dude. And he went through so much stuff, and everybody like online was complaining like, oh, they overlooked Bran, and I was like, no, he's got something going. I feel like everybody got their proper ending. Like Jon Snow was not gonna fucking be king. Like he would not tell. Nobody will probably ever know that he's Targaryen other than Tyrion. And if you notice, he didn't. Or, well, Sansa and Arya know, but I don't think he wanted to be king. And I feel like they kind of like, him walking into the woods at the end is like he went to the north with the wildlings. He kind of had like a wildling streak in him. He liked the wildlings, and he liberated them. So it's kind of like his way of just being, he's done with this shit, And he broke the will. He's fucking gone. He's the heir to he was the king, but I don't know, man. I really can't complain. I thought that was a fucking good ending. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, you fucking, easily amused and whatever. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's a fucking show with dragons and people getting their heads cut off. Like, I don't really know what's appealing, really, to me, to the show, other than the macabre aspect was cool. And then, the politics of it were complicated but simple enough, because I'm not a political guy. But it's interesting, like it was a game of chess, which was cool. It was a good game of chess. And the coolest thing about this being the last episode is I was waiting to read the rest of the books. I started reading Clash of Kings right after Game of Thrones, and then the show was on, and I was like, well, maybe I'll watch that and let him wrap up the series. But whatever Martin's doing, man, he's taking his sweet-ass time writing those books. So I think he's been working on, I think the first one came out like 2005 maybe, or 2000. Like, it's an older book. Like, he's been working on these books for a long time. I think there's 5 books out now. So that should keep me entertained for a bit. Yeah, man. I liked it. I don't know. If you guys didn't like it, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in the comments. But 0 complaints from this guy. Favorite show of all time. It beat The Walking Dead. Probably on a scale of like epic things that I've seen on TV. Like, epic is a good word. That was an epic show. It might top Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's been one of my favorite shows. Breaking Bad topped Sopranos. Like, so it used to be Sopranos was, man, that's the greatest show ever. And then, Dexter, I really liked the first season of Dexter, but that show kind of went downhill. Really liked The Strain, but that show went downhill. But Breaking Bad ended on a really high note, and I would always like, dude, Breaking Bad's the best show ever. It had a beginning, middle, and end that worked. It wasn't bullshit. So this is the second show in my life that didn't, like, my favorite shows growing up. I loved The Wonder Years. Horrible ending, man. The worst ending. I liked Roseanne when I was a little kid. Horrible ending. I liked Dinosaurs. Look up the ending to Dinosaurs. What the fuck, dude? It's a children's show, and they end it with, I won't even spoil it. Look up the ending of the show Dinosaurs. The Jim Henson like puppet dinosaurs movie or show. So jacked up. So, Breaking Bad was like that first point where I was like, dude, this is really good. And so this is a good feeling. I was entertained for the last 4 or 5 years, and I mean, since I read the book, the last 10 years. I read that book 10 years ago, so it's kind of cool to see it in. Now, if I read the books, maybe I'm glad I watched the show first. Usually you're supposed to read the books first, but the books are always better. So I still have the better entertainment source waiting. I'm going to give it a little minute here, so I'm not picturing the fucking show while I'm reading the books. I'm going to treat it separately and picture, what he's writing and what I want to picture while I'm reading. The cool thing about reading a book is you can picture whatever the fuck you want. So I kind of say I went backwards, so I'm kind of happy about that because now I can still read the books and I can still enjoy, something that I've been enjoying for a while. So, well, all right. Well, I told you guys I'd tell you what I thought. It's been 15 minutes, so if you watch this whole thing, thank you. Thank you guys. If you watched this and you haven't watched Game of Thrones, you just ruined the whole show for yourself. So that's just ignorant. You ignorant.